next one is a slice-of-life anime about cute mermaids trying to fix up an old movie theater and the little adventures that happen along the way. As of late, these slower, lighthearted shows tend to be my jam, so why do I feel like I've seen all I've needed to see after only 2 episodes? I think the unique underwater setting grabs my attention. The colorful background art is cute, and I can even forgive the slow-framed movements of the characters because it's got its own charm in a way. Essentially, a slice-of-life series like this doesn't need many resources to be decent, so why? I think it's due to the numerous amount of little moments packed in each episode. Now, in its defense, little moments are these types of shows' bread and butter. Without them, you don't have anything unique to put forward. But Bermuda Triangle, I think, takes too much time outlining every little scene in detail. For example, in episode 1, the goal is to introduce the new mermaid Kano, whatever, who's come to the town from the city. But before that, we got to introduce the main adults in the show, admire the sweets at the bake shop, deliver the mail, notice the obviously strange package in the mail to be used for plot later, go to each recipient of each mail for some screen time, so by the time Kanan actually comes out on screen, we're only halfway done with the episode. From there, the problem shows more of its head when a lunch scene, another food scene, the scene with the grand tie, the discovery of the movie theater, and so on and so forth. Look, I know it sounds weird when written on paper since this should sound like the usual fare, but in practice, I feel like I was watching 2 episodes when I only watched 1. I'm not saying that this makes the show's quality bad per se, but my main issue stems from the question of, I feel like I've got my feel of this show so soon. Why bother finishing the series? I feel like it's one of those shows in an anime season I would pick up for its cute genre, then immediately drop for a better replacement or something different entirely. It just has a really bad lack of agency. Yes, that's the phrase I'm looking for. But it's a real shame because I think besides all this, Bermuda Triangle is pretty harmless and it's a cute show to put on in the background.
I keep saying to myself that I liked Lucky Star, but why don't I like this? Yeah, I asked myself several times on several shows in this list, but this is one of them. The series is basically Lucky Star, but underwater and with mermaids. And like many underwater adventures, the other creatures can also talk, which is cute, especially the manatee or the walrus mailman. Essentially, it's a slice of life show that, in this case, spends a bit too much time on the minor events, like what cake to get from the local cafe. Putting aside how mermaids can't even drink tea or eat cake underwater, I like how it focuses less on the wacky events and constant quirky moments and more on small favors and connection between people. I only wish it wasn't so slow. I like the pace, don't get me wrong, it's a nice, relaxing, happy show, and it's not meant to pull too many heartstrings. The mermaid theme is a nice change up in anime I haven't seen before, so good job there. It's average, it's fun, it's chill out and be happy under the sea with the show. I love this show already, and I only had time to watch 1 episode. The animation reminds me of Attack on Titan in some ways. I like the way the show uses 3D for the magical creatures they summon, in this case, fairies and loose interpretations of JoJo stands. The main focus is people who are soldiers or mercenaries that fuse with little fairy spirits, which are absolutely adorable, to enhance their physical traits and also summon a giant companion spirit that is a little bigger than them, sometimes much bigger than them, and they can range from werewolves to random knife ladies to I don't know what. It can be a bit odd what they summon, but it doesn't seem to match their personality much, but that's not the point. The 3D graphics don't quite mesh with the foreground animation, and the cuts are a bit jumpy, but I like their approach. The non-3D animation is actually quite good, if a bit stiff, and the voice acting is solid. I should also mention this takes place in fictional Europe number 25, and I think it's alternate 1945 year? Unsure there. Tried and true setting though, to be sure. My major critique is the pace of the show is a bit slow even for the action scenes. Characters spend a bit too long talking or staring at something, and it's a little distracting, but from what I've seen, it's definitely caught my eye.
Fairygon has the second highest mouse score of this video series of 5.91, and with it having a second season, which is also rare for something rated so low, I'm really interested to see what's going on here. Oh. Right. This is a PA work. I don't hate PA works per se. They certainly tried to make something decent here, which again did well enough for a second season. However, when I experience a PA work, they tend to have the same problem of being pretty on the outside and slow on the inside. Like a postcard you got from a beautiful location, but it took 3 weeks for your gram to receive it from only 4 miles away. Like other shows they've made, such as Gaslit, the main issue I've had with Fairy Gone was the slow pace to pretty much everything. When it came to the plot, conversations between characters were slow. It felt like they were breaking up the action scenes, which were already sluggish and barely animated. When not in motion or in an intense scene, it's nice and pretty to look at. But I get kind of bored when all one does for 1 minute or two is stare at some obvious MacGuffin like it's a hamster eating some fruit. Come on, PA Works. You literally have a show about JoJo stands in 1940s wartime. This show should be the one to get you out of your comfort zone. Live a little! In Fairy Gone's defense, it's not as boring when there's not many characters on screen. In fact, the main female lead is really cool. I like her a lot. Along with Veronica from episode 1 and the totally 20-something not Kirito over there. But that's all I have to say, so moving on. Isekai Cheat Magician is like that bag of potato chips at the Dollar Tree. It's convenient, familiar, and cheap. You don't really feel bad about eating it, but you already have better, more varied choices of chip elsewhere. Or better translated in the meme world, Mama! Isekai Cheat Magician. No, dear, we already have Isekai Cheat Magician at home. Honestly, I don't judge anyone for watching this show. In fact, if I had time, I'd probably watch this show too, all the way through. But that's also why it's here in the worst anime pile. It's forgettable. It's got all the isekai food groups of the otaku dinner table and none of the nutritional value. Just variations of the same ass potato chip. If you've seen any other fantasy show with RPG elements, you've seen them all. Either way, watch it, don't watch it, you decide, y'all, cause I'm done talking about it.
This follows the isekai formula. That's the best way I can summarize it. Two school students are transported to a fantasy realm and learn that they are immensely powerful mages, and who then set off to become adventurers. I want to like this one more than I don't. It at least shows a self-awareness to a slight degree to the subject matter, but the characters are more trope than person. A stoic warrior, a sassy mage, school friend / love interest, wise but funny teacher. Not too much new. Even the monsters are a bit generic, but there's not much you can do in this kind of category if you want to keep the fantasy world flavor, I guess. They do try to make the magic system more intricate to an extent. At least it's not entirely like video game themed this time, but it's not quite enough to save it from being a bit bland.
And now it's time for another fun-filled segment of Community Corner, the time where I highlight other outlets in the anime community in hopes that other people will have a look-see. Today's outlet is brought to you by the letter M. M for Mitsuba! Kage Pro 24 is an anituber who likes to post, well, whatever she feels like. What she's feeling and watching at the time is what you're gonna get, and I find that quite interesting. Sure, you have some regular topics she's spewing, like with Love Life, and then you have all her Hanako content. It feels very homey and just something someone would do in their spare time. So if you want grab bag content with bite-sized quality, then consider going to youtube.com/KagePro24 and check her out. Fun fact, it was because of her I fell down the rabbit hole of content, and now I finally know what Rena's face looks like. Now if you know of any other creative outlets in this world of anime, comment about them down below or at AMShannon on Twitter with the hashtag CommunityCorner and tell me all about it. In this time where community is more important than ever, while I may be one girl on the internet, I will always try my best.
This is a nice change for the courier genre. The guy is a Japanese package transporter, essentially, whatever the package may be, and he's hired to rescue and take a girl to a giant hole in the world that used to be a city, called Lost, ironically. How that disappeared and how the girl survived is a mystery. Kudos to the beginning for getting across a tone of cataclysm and confusion that I can only imagine the main female character is feeling. Again, I've only watched episode 1, but it's a really good start. The pace is quick so far with action scenes decently common, and with the element of psychic beings and telekinesis and lots of helicopter chases, it keeps your attention well. Maybe the obvious 3D graphic cars for some bits, or the cryptic cliche dialogue parts drag the score down a bit, but I'll find out as I watch more. For now though, I'm definitely curious and I'd say check it out.
Ah, yes. We always get one of these types of anime when you look at what's considered to be the worst anime. Shoumetsu Toshi is one of those shows which has many good things inside it, but is so down the middle in terms of quality that it's easier to knock it down a peg for its forgettability, aka a common casualty of the seasonal anime format. I don't think it's a show worth being among some of the worst here, because it tries to be something enjoyable. The action scenes are my favorite part because, unlike Fairy Gone, knows how to pace its set pieces to be fast and energetic. The tone of the show is a perfect fit for this Courier thriller about a dude trying to get knockoff Sarah's Victoria to some hole in the ground, made by God who knows what. Then Discount Organization 13 comes in to try to thwart the little girl's journey because hoodies are evil! You can totally tell if a character has a nicer soul if they don't wear one, I swear. But anyway, Shoumetsu Toshi does a great job pulling you into the mystery and intrigue on episode 1. Yeah, the CG is noticeable sometimes, but definitely not a deal breaker. Though with the male score it got, I can understand why this show isn't at the top of people's must-watch to stay relevant list. I mean, the show's dialogue is pretty boring, and while the action is nice, the plot is pretty predictable. So I think it's not a matter of whether the show is good or not, just whether the show was good enough at face value to stay relevant. But yeah, I would bump this up to a 6 at the least. Not a bad show, but definitely not a memorable one either. That's all I gotta say about that. And now I bring to you our final anime of the evening. And probably the one most people have heard about, talked about, and wouldn't shut up about when it came to air during the summer season. Do You Like Your Mom? Her normal attack is 2 attacks at full power, or Okasan Online, or a term coined by fellow anti-tuber, Gigook Meixsell, which will be the name I'm choosing for the remainder of this segment because it's funny. Meixsell got its infamy because, well, do I need to spell it out to ya? It's an isekai where the majority of the show is about pushing this dude into perverted situations with his ma! I mean, those art skills had to be put to use, I guess, and at least she's legal, but for many like myself, I can agree that this type of content took up too much of the show's runtime. In order to bring families closer together, the Japanese government, that's right, the Japanese motherfucking government, created an MMORPG designed around a partner system emphasizing the dynamic between mother and child, in where our main character, Masato, soon realizes that if he wants to play this game properly and hopefully get out of it, he needs to bond with his airheaded mother, who's been given OP abilities. Essentially, think of you and your ma getting stuck in a super intense game of Wii bowling. I could go on and on about how suffocating the etchiness for the show is. However, like it or not, this show did achieve what most others in this two-parter could not: be an impactful and a memorable series. Even if this is not what I particularly wanted, I'm always up for parents getting prominent roles in anime that aren't antagonistic. A more wholesome rendition of this anime could have been the struggles of each family pair trying to overcome their personal grievances with each other. In the anime, I thought the conflict with Wise had some real potential with the whole issue regarding her mother's maternal maturity. Sure, what we actually got was a little bit of that with an added dollop of whipped cream, but something could have been there is all I'm trying to say. I'm just amazed I can have some decent things I remember about this show. For example, I remember when watching the show that I thought how Wise the Mage could have actually been Lena Inverse's daughter despite the universe being in the Middle Ages. I know it sounds ridiculous, but come on, look at her and try to tell me how you don't see it. All in all, the show at the end of the day chose what priorities it wanted to focus on. Priorities I'm sure were vented in droves on Mal, so I completely understand why it's here, as it does deserve to be called out for the trash it is. Once you get past the ecchi, it honestly does get stale with its comedic routine. Masato is a really unlikable character for the beginning of the series, and I wish his ma had more awareness. Beyond that, it's not the worst thing I've seen, and I'll definitely take it over the anime that I dubbed as last year's worst, about shoving a rock in tiny Joan of Arc's belly and making it look like she was being deflowered. Oh, and by the by, Lamp couldn't get to this one, so hence why you're only getting my beautiful rendition of this anime today, for the power of maternal instincts was too much for this pup. And to this day, he never looked at slime the same way ever again. Amen. Hey buddy, how you like them apples? Do you agree with some of our points today, or do you disagree like Mighty Number 9 on prom night? Today in the comments below, I command thee to do the following. A. Put a review of some of the anime you've seen here, or your favorite type of blue jeans, because Polo can suck it! Tommy Hilfiger is a close second to douchebaggery, but at least Tommy tries to make normal people fight over it. Polo seems to be for people who really like golf, while watching other people fight for clothes. Follow me on my Twitter, join the Discord, and if you're feeling saucy, support me on Patreon or Ko-fi. Now then, Lamp, let us go out like influencers and bet on people fighting over Air Jordans in the parking lot without once thinking of calling an ambulance in case of an injury. Shannen out!